Raman's going to take us through, share his brilliant insight with us, so our artists in Lancashire or people can set up labels, and we can develop that part of our ecology. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, that's good, isn't it? Yes, my name's Raman Bostan. Nice to see you all. Thanks for coming along. I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about building a modern digital label, growth, partnerships, and value capture, which is a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? In very brief, I'm going to give you about 20-25 minutes about my experience of running a label and perhaps some of the considerations and objectively some of the things that I'd be looking for when thinking about starting a label as a business. And hopefully, as Tony says, we can see more independent labels being started in this part of the world as well. So very, very briefly, I'll give you a bit of an introduction as to me and my career to date. So I started out at a music licensing company called Amico in Blackpool. I then moved to Ostereo, which was a record label, music publisher, music distributor, based largely in and around Manchester. Originally, I went in an A&R capacity, so artists and repertoire, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And then later, I moved into a position as a company director, and most recently, I was chief operating officer at Ostereo. In late 2024, we were actually acquired by an American company in Los Angeles music giant called Create Music Group. And yeah, my day-to-day was overseeing A&R, so artists and repertoire, as I've mentioned, distribution of music, our marketing campaigns, and our business affairs as well, so day-to-day legal contracts, all those types of things, budgets. I actually left Ostereo at the end of February of this year, and I'm currently a candidate for the solicitor's qualifying examinations, so a bit of a U-turn. One of the first things that I just wanted to open with was just a few quite broad considerations, I think, about record labels and about the recorded music industry more generally, and perhaps how it's changed in recent decades. I think recent decades have seen an enormous amount of disruption in the recorded music industry, particularly where record labels are concerned. I think historically, record labels and their business models were built on kind of signing artists' back catalog which was already successful, and then monetizing that. And actually, we're investment vehicles, record labels. So it used to be really, really expensive and difficult to go and get a professional recording made. Nowadays, it's not so much necessarily the case. People can learn to use a DAW at home and can record at home. They maybe can work with friends who have a home studio set up, or they can actually go into a recording studio much more affordably than they would have been able to 30 years ago. So that whole investment function of the record label, I think, has changed in recent decades. And also distribution and access to audience. It used to be that record labels owned those distribution pipelines to get your music onto radio, to get your music played in the clubs, which was then going to lead to chart positions and commercial success and fame and fortune. But now, artists are able to access those pipelines to be able to communicate directly with their audience, whether that's on audio streaming platforms like Spotify or whether that's on social media platforms. I think it also, and I think it always has been to some extent, it can be a bit of an adversarial relationship, that between artists and record labels. I think a lot of the public discourse that you hear about record labels can be characterized as a little bit binary. It's kind of like the record labels are the bad guys and the artists are the good guys, and that's just how it is and how it always has been. So if you go into running a record label in good faith, and because you care about music and because you love artists and you really are genuinely excited about helping them make their career commercially successful, you are kind of going in there a little bit sometimes with an underlying sort of stench of mistrust and kind of what do you want from me, Mr. Record Label? So I think it's incumbent on record labels to demonstrate through their words and their actions, ultimately, that they are operating in good faith and that they do care about the artists. And I think that survivors in this marketplace particularly have had to adapt and continue to adapt. Record labels and the way that they demonstrate value can't simply be, well, we just simply finance things and that's it. I think artists want a bit more than that. I think they want network and I think they want commercial and marketing know-how. And they're the kinds of things where a label can really add value to an artist's career. I'll talk very briefly about two really important functions, certainly when I was at the label. Artists and repertoire, A&R, gets talked about a lot as being kind of the creative backbone of a lot of record labels. Day to day, finding talent wasn't really about getting VIP and going to lots and lots of gigs. It was more about being perpetually online. So I spent a lot of my career on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, and of course, streaming platforms like Spotify, looking for new artists to work with. I'd also use a lot of data tools, things like Chartmetric and Song Stats, to be able to find the artists that I wanted to work with. I'd start out with a very clear idea of the metrics that I'm looking for, whether that's artist size, maybe it's about release activity, maybe it's about the genre of music itself that I want to work with. And tools like Chartmetric can actually help you to give you that data specifically for the artists that you're looking to sign. And the most important thing, and I think this gets lost a little bit sometimes from A&R's minds, is the effective thing to engage an artist, somebody that you want to work with, is actually showing them that you've listened and that you care. And, you know, I used to genuinely listen to a lot of their music before I'd write them an email or send them a message and tell them and show them that I'd done so. You know, I loved what you did at that chorus at 2 minutes 15. I think it's absolutely fabulous. It gave me chills, you know, and it actually does show them that you give a shit, because they've put their heart and soul into that music. And I think a lot of A&Rs fall into the trap of just saying, hey man, this is dope, do you want to do a deal? And it's boring as well, isn't it? And critically, you're not enjoying it. Why did you get into this in the first place? Presumably because you love music. So enjoy it, man. If that's your job, all the better. As the A&R person, you're also looking to structure the deal. So you're looking to agree the terms. What is the investment that you're putting in? What are the percentages? How long are you signing for? All those kinds of considerations. And actually taking that through from that idea through to getting it signed as well. So it's important that you have a good amount of literacy when it comes to contracts and legal. You're providing creative support as well to artists. So to help them realize their records, they maybe need a studio, maybe they need a producer, maybe they need an engineer, and they're hoping that you have a network and that you know those people and that you know the prices and that you can help them to actually realize those records. Or maybe it's about collaborating with other artists as well. Maybe they want a feature on something or be a feature. So all of that stuff is really important to build as an A&R person. And guiding the creative process as well, which is an honor. When an artist sends you a track and they're willing to listen to your opinion about maybe something that's happening musically within the song, but maybe you need to temper the conversation. If they've put a Lennon-McCartney sample in there and, you know, they've fallen in love with it, you maybe need to tell them it's neither cost-effective nor realistic to get that cleared, and maybe we should move into the realms of something a bit more realistic. So being that bridge between the creative and the commercial sensibility of it. And product management as well. I think this often gets forgotten about, and often it's the same person doing these two functions. It'll be the A&R person is also the product manager, but product management is really, really important, and it all falls apart like wet cake without it. But it's about guiding the release plans. So what's the timeline for the release? When are we looking to release this? Accordingly, when do we need all of the assets by? And by assets, I mean WAV files, artworks, metadata, who wrote the song, do they have publishers, all that kind of information. communication, and guiding the promotional strategies as well. How are we going to actually market this record, and what do we need in order to facilitate those promotional strategies? And then organising everything when it comes to that signing. So making sure you've got the contract to hand, you've got the WAV file, you've got the instrumental, you've got the clean version, you've got the radio edit, you've got the artwork. All of that stuff needs to be organised and kept and maintained by that product manager. Because critically, they will need to communicate that externally. If somebody comes to you and wants to license the song for a TV show or a film or an advert, you need to have that instrumental file to hand, and the product manager is the person who would generally provide it. I'll talk briefly about sort of deal terms and financial modeling. If you're starting an independent label now, it's important for you to think about, I think, what does your deal look like? You know, how long does it run for? Is it an exclusive deal? Are you happy for the artist to work with other record labels at the same time? There's no real right or wrong here. I think it's just about finding something that's realistic, sustainable for you. If you're running this as a business. What is the recoupment like? So when you invest money, when do you recoup that money, and from what pot of income and at what rate? Approval rights and procedure. So do you need to go and get artist and manager approval every time you want to do something? If you want to spend money, or if you want to license the song to a TV show, it's important to have all of these things in your deal already drafted out. And how often are you going to account to your artists? Financial modeling as well. I think this is perhaps less of a consideration if you're starting out brand new, an independent record label. You're perhaps not thinking about, well, I have lots and lots of budget here to work with, but over time you would hope that that budget and that buying power grows for you so that you can compete for some bigger acts and bigger artists. But think about at what level do you pay your advances? So are you paying people an advance on future royalties that they could otherwise earn? Budgets, what do they look like? So recording, production, and even going into marketing and promotion. I think when you're advancing this kind of money and when you're putting money on the table as a business, particularly as a record label, really, it's an interest-free loan that you're giving somebody. And I think that warrants that you can ask people to see royalty statements so that you can get a better sense of their earnings now. If I'm going to put money on the table, can I have a sense of what earnings look like for you at the moment? They might tell you to F off, and that's up to them. That's their prerogative. But it's okay for you to ask. It's also okay for you to ask if you can have access to an analytics platform like their Spotify for Artists, so that you can get a sense of, okay, how many streams per listener is this project getting? That's always a really good metric that I used to look at. Or saves as well. Saves are a really important thing to show that there's fans buying into the project. They're not just streaming it off the strength of a playlist, but they actually really, really are becoming fans of that artist. So it's okay to ask for those sorts of things. 1 million Spotify streams now equates to probably, we used to work on around £2,000 per million streams that was generated. It used to actually be a lot more, and that has just eroded over time. There's so much music going on to Spotify, and there's a much bigger pool of people to pay from that big royalty pool. So it isn't as good as it used to be, but £2,000 roughly, depending on where the listeners are located as well. Some countries will pay less. And then you just need to think to yourself, how long, if I put whatever it is, £100, £50, £1,000, how long will it take me to recoup that investment? What's realistic for me to recoup? And at what point will I make a profit on this investment? If this is, you know, you're running this as a business, they're the kinds of questions to ask. I think no record label would be effective at all if it didn't have really effective partners in the industry. We've talked a little bit already about distributors. Johnny talked about Ditto and DistroKid, which are brilliant platforms independent artists can use to get their music out there. As a record label, especially if you have quite a large catalogue of music, you may be able to negotiate an even better deal with a distributor. But thinking about, does that distributor match what I need from a financial perspective, marketing? Are they on all of the platforms that I'm going to need to deliver my music to? Developing contacts at editorial teams, at streaming platforms, at digital platforms as well. So if you can attend networking events, get to know somebody at TikTok, get to know somebody at Meta. I used a lot of those relationships in my time at the label, even just to troubleshoot technical things that were happening on release day, for example. A song gets mapped to the wrong profile on the platform, and it's really great to be able to reach out to somebody there and ask them if they can help. Sync, live, and sponsorship agents as well. So Sync, getting your music into TV shows, ads, films. There are agencies out there that can help you do that. Find one that's a good genre match for you, present yourself well, and they may well want to work with you and take a percentage of any future deals that they can bring forward. Live as well. So I know we're talking about releasing recorded music here, but as a record label, you may want to issue tour support to your artists so that they can actually go out on the road and promote the record that you've just released, and it might be good for you to work with a live agent, booking agent in that respect. And sponsorship as well, so working with brands. We did a lot of brand deals in my time at the label, and they can be really lucrative for artists. To post something on TikTok or Instagram, a product endorsement. Legal teams, maybe you don't actually want to use a legal team day to day. Maybe it's too expensive. That's fine. But perhaps you want to work with legal teams so you can refer artists that you want to sign to that legal team, and you could cover a portion of their legal costs, for example. So it's good to have a good bank of contacts in the legal sector as well. Promotional teams, so radio pluggers, press agents, any of those things that you might want to engage for a future campaign. Have a good bank of those. How much do they cost? What genres do they service? What territories do they service? And what are realistic objectives to get back from those? Trade bodies, so people like BPI, the British Phonographic Industry, AIM. We were members of those organisations when I was at the label, and they were really helpful from a networking, from an education perspective. If you're a member of AIM as an independent label, you can also go into Merlin deals. Merlin is basically an aggregator. It allows you to access deals to digital platforms like Spotify. You can do a direct deal through Merlin. And for example, a Merlin deal, I think, would cost you about 1.5%, whereas you might be looking in the region of 15 to 25% through your distributor, depending on your deal. So again, working with trade bodies and just trying to accept as much help and support as you can. And consultants, contractors, collaborators, contacts in general. It's a reasonably small industry, the music industry. And so it's important, just make friends, man, with as many people as you can. Go to loads of events, speak to lots of people, because you'll always be able to learn something from somebody. So, revenue capture. Just, again, thinking about running this as a business. If you have got a catalogue of music and you've got artists that you're working with and you're responsible for accounting to those artists as well, you want to make sure you're capturing all the money that you can. There's a lot of money in the music industry gets left on the table. Every single year, you're talking millions of pounds that just go uncollected because labels and or artists just haven't put in place the registrations to collect it. So, of course, you're talking about getting your money from your DSPs, your audio streaming income, which would come via your distributor. Make sure your distributor is capturing all of that revenue. Social media platforms as well. Johnny mentioned it, putting a song out onto Instagram or TikTok or on through YouTube, making sure you're capturing that revenue. Is your distributor delivering it into those platforms? If not, can you do it directly? Is there someone else you can use to capture that? Because again, 100,000 plays or 100 million plays on Facebook or Instagram will generate income as long as you've registered the rights properly. PPL, so performance income for the master side. If ever you're played on radio or TV or anything like that, it's really important that you're doing your PPL registration so you can get that money. And also neighbouring rights. So whenever your records are played overseas, you're collecting all of that money. Again, Johnny alluded to it earlier. You don't know when you're releasing music digitally where in the world it's going to get played. So if you're not registered and collecting this money, it will just get left on the table. Nobody's going to give it to you. And then looking at other avenues like merchandise or live, like we've talked about, sponsorship. These are all really important mechanisms by which to generate more revenue for you and the artist. And then lastly, and I can't stress this enough, just availability. Make sure you are available in as many places as possible. A lot of times I've heard people say, oh, well, it doesn't really matter if we're not available in India or we're not available in China because I don't have any fan base there. The reality is you don't know. You absolutely don't know where those pockets of listenership are going to begin. And so it's really important that you're available in as many places as possible. And then just lastly, I just wanted to touch briefly, because I'm sorry, I know we don't have a lot of time, but just on the marketing and promotion side, I know that this is actually, going back to something I said earlier, I think this is a lot of where the value gets added from record labels now. It's some of that marketing and promotional know-how. So I used to make a lot of checklists when I was at the record label and get people to do those whenever we were planning releases. But one of those checklist items would have been something like identifying the target audience. So is there a particular age range that we're going for? Do they have particular interests? Are they based in a particular location? So knowing who you're trying to market to is really important. And then from that, deciding on branding and the aesthetic of the project, the artwork, what are you going to do on social media, visually speaking, around the release. Drafting some promotional text for the release as well. Doesn't have to be a lot. You can talk a little bit what's happening musically in the song. Does the artist have a quote that they want to share about it? Does the artist have any career highlights? Have they been featured in some playlists? Have they had some radio play? Have they been on a TV show? All of those kinds of things you can then draft into an EPK, an electronic press kit, and you can just have that to hand. It's just a short document, a PDF, have it to hand throughout the campaign. Anybody who needs it, you're then presenting professionally and properly for the artist and trying to generate more traction for the release. Study adjacent acts and promotional strategies. So look at what other artists in that space are doing. If it's a punk act, look at other punk bands. What have they done well? What haven't they done so well? What has worked for them promotionally speaking? And try and replicate some of that and learn from some of those mistakes elsewhere in the market. Content ideation. So again, when we're thinking about TikTok and Instagram and how do we actually promote music on these platforms, a lot of artists aren't sure how to do that. Again, something Johnny mentioned was talking about doing MTV style music videos, which unfortunately just do not generate oftentimes the revenue in order to recoup the investment. So what content are we putting out on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube Shorts? An artist may need some ideas. They may need some inspiration, some guidance. Ultimately, again, it's incumbent on us as record labels to provide that guidance, but be mindful, as Johnny said, that it's their face on the project oftentimes. And if they don't want to do something, you can't force that issue. So you have to try and find other ways around it, but help them with ideas and inspiration. Identify a campaign plan, so release timing. When are we releasing it? What's the marketing? Are we going to do a pre-save campaign around this? And all of this stuff, is it going to be in budget? Can we afford to do everything that we're setting out here? And critically, has the artist or the manager approved everything that we're proposing to do here? That's really important. I've never worked with an artist who said to me, "You're right, you always ask me too often if I'm happy with everything that we're doing." If anything, it would be the other way around. You don't want to take an action on this project which is so close to that person's heart that they weren't happy with. That's about creative decisions, visual decisions, as well as financial decisions. So get approval as much as possible. And then you may need to actually help create the content. So when you've done all these ideas, they can go away, film video, send you that video, and then you can make it into assets for them. You can add captions. You can make sure it's the right size for Instagram, the right size for TikTok, and then schedule their posts for them, or actually post it across platforms. Often the artists are busy making music, so it's really difficult to manage however many platforms and channels they have. So help them with that. Book any campaigns that you've got going on, whether you want to do a radio campaign, press, anything like that. Make sure you're engaging the agency with plenty of notice and time. Sending your editorial pitches for playlists at Spotify, Apple. You do it over email as well. So again, try and build a book of contacts that you can speak to so that you can send them email pitches. As long as you're doing it in the right way and you're not being annoying and you're not sharing their data far and wide, they probably won't mind hearing from you. They want to hear good music. And then you need to engage your paid advertising campaigns. If you're doing things, you're running ads on TikTok or Meta or YouTube, you might be doing that before the release to try and generate traction. We used to run a lot of traffic ads on TikTok to bring people into the channel before a release. And then after the release, you're then running viewership ads on very select pieces of content. And you need to optimize those things as you go through in order for them to be effective. And then in-house playlists, just briefly. Oh, someone's phone. We've got an alarm. Is that me? Am I out of time? Oh, no. Oh, it's your phone. It's beautiful, man. Can we release it? In-house playlists. So a lot of labels have their own... I don't know which one it is. Sorry. A lot of labels have their own playlists now, and they're really important promotional tools for music. So if you can curate and promote a decent playlist on Spotify. Again, some labels actually charge artists to be included in those playlists. Make of that what you will. Or live streams on YouTube as well. So there's a lot of dance labels, especially, who will run live streams on YouTube. People just play them continuously on a loop, and they generate really good revenue. If you can market those effectively, and you've tagged them and titled them as you should, great. That's going to be a really important promotional tool. And the artists themselves can have playlists on their channels which showcase their music, but it's curated with a mix and a blend of other people's music, people who've inspired them, for example. And again, those things can be really important promotional tools. And you can run paid advertising on a playlist as opposed to a single track. Then you're generating plays in the broader catalogue, not just that one record, and you keep people in the project for as long as possible. So yeah, sorry, I feel like I've talked at about 1,000,000 miles an hour there, and that's all I have for you. That's everything I've got.
Thanks, Raman. That was sensational. That was a whistle-stop tour. You're all experts now in setting up a digital label.
It was fast, wasn't it? Very
fast.
fast.
It was.
Sorry.
So, but it's interesting that there was, two quite distinct perspectives emerged from between Johnny and Raman, kind of talking about the same thing in essence, which is releasing music, isn't it, really? But two different sides. Johnny was going more DIY, and now we know how to. I mean, I do think it would be great if. Is there anyone in here who? Do we have any record labels in here? Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Of course, Matt. Is there any going to emerge now? Is there anyone interested in maybe picking this up or encouraging people to do it? Yes, yeah, we've got a couple. Yeah, it's fantastic. So it's landed. That's brilliant. Have we got any questions for Raman then? Yes, we do. Over there, please. In the middle of the room.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, yellow shirt.
Yeah, I appreciate it very much.
Oh, sorry.
I have a question that oftentimes I know that there are people that release music, and everyone understands that you have to release on Spotify and social media and TikTok and do all this stuff, but they still want a thing. And I know it takes a lot of convincing to tell them we're not going to do physical releases and we're not going to make you a CD or an LP, and that if you want to and you got money, then knock yourself out. But we just can't handle it. Is there anything that you've been able to convince people that, we can give you some business cards with QR codes, or we can give you something that's like a thing to give to people, but that's not like an actual run of physical media?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I think people love a physical product, and something like vinyl is a very beautiful product to have. And I think CD's making a comeback, and tape as well. And I think all of these mediums have a lot of value. I think for our label at Stereo, it was primarily digital, so we didn't do that much physical. We did do some runs of physical, and I've still got 200 vinyl in storage to prove it. It's not that easy or cost effective or timely actually to get those physical products out for a release. But it depends completely on the genre, it depends on the level of investment that's available, and actually it depends on the objectives. I was listening to a talk a couple of weeks ago at Sound City. The label for the K's was speaking, Mark Orr from Lab Records, and he was talking about how they'd worked lots of different versions of the vinyl in order to actually secure a chart position in the first week after release. It was a really impressive campaign, and actually a lot of that was centered around that physical push that they were really hammering all the way through the tour. So I think there's a massive value to it in the right circumstances. I also think we're seeing physical products and digital products sort of converge a little bit, and those two worlds intertwine. You mentioned there like a business card with a QR code on it. There's a company in Liverpool called Serenade, or actually I think they're London-based, called Serenade, who do NFC technology. So not non-fungible tokens, not NFTs, but NFCs. You know, when you buzz into the tube or whatever using your phone, contactless payments, and they're chips and they're little stickers that you can put on anything. You can put it on a cap, on a phone cover, you can put it onto a vinyl record, and then it gives you, firstly, an immutable record of the ownership of who bought that product, but then it also gives you access to an exclusive digital backend that can be live. It can be ever changing, so the artist can upload exclusive unplugged versions, or pictures of their lyric book or whatever it is, and it makes the artist feel closer to the act. So I think we'll see a lot more of that. I think we'll see those worlds of digital products and physical products converge. I don't think it'll be NFTs, though. I think that died, didn't it? Does anyone want to buy an ape that I've got?
Have you any idea how many copies, we could look it up, it takes to get a physical number one single?
Oh, I don't know.
Not a lot, though.
Question.
It's not going to be a huge amount.
I think the K's was something like 14,000?
14,000?
Something like that.
10 would have been my guess, but...
Yeah, which is loads, isn't it? If you think about shifting product that costs quite a lot of money to the end user.
Yeah, but it's a good accolade, isn't it? I don't know, is it a good accolade anymore, number one single? What is a hit even these days? I think, we're challenging that, aren't we? I mean, when Johnny put up 10 million streams, I'm thinking that's £25,000. That's I can't help it though. To be, I'm sort of looking at how we capture, value, what things are worth, making sure that we get all the money. I think you covered that brilliantly as well. Have we got any other questions for Raman? Yep, we've got one down there.
Hi. So my question's kind of about like AI. I know we've touched upon it with Johnny. Kind of as an artist using AI tools, which I have my own feelings about, but people do it. I was wondering, how involved is AI in kind of like A&R and seeking out new artists? Is that something that's happening? And kind of what are your thoughts on that? Are we losing like human elements?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of data tools like that'll comb platforms and look for artists. I think something like I mentioned with Chartmetric, it's not an AI tool, but it looks at the data from Spotify, for example, or YouTube, whatever platform you choose. I don't know. I mean, I think in terms of processing that data, you could build in some more efficiency using AI. But I think, there are tools out there that will identify specific artists using AI. I don't know, man. I am a bit of a Luddite when it comes to AI, I'll be honest. Like, I do use it a bit. Like, it can be really helpful to explain something very complex to you, or as Johnny was saying, to kind of take some of that administrative management burden out of life. But but like Johnny said, and I think this is absolutely bang on, he doesn't want to use it to make the music because that's the bit he actually enjoys. And as an A&R person, the going out there and looking for artists and listening to their tunes, that's the fun bit. I don't want to outsource that. Do you know what I mean? So, they do exist. I didn't really engage with them. I did answer your question.
Any other questions? Okay, right. Well, we'll try and do some. Thank you, Ramin. That was amazing.